Welcome back, folks. My name is Jeff, and you're listening to another episode of the Dirty Decibels podcast. And today I'm hanging out with my good pal, Heather Timmons. And Heather is the tour de force behind TinyOak Booking, which is a promotion company that has been around for the past several years in Boston and has been booking shows in and around the city, the Midway Cafe, Tavern at the End of the World, the Jungle Music Community Club, among others, and is also a huge part of developing the still relatively new Boston Local Music Festival, which just had its second year done virtually, but was a pretty big success the first year in City Hall Plaza. And welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me. This is cool.
How you doing?
I'm good. We just did another DigiFest yesterday, which was fun.
Yeah, I saw all the links for that. How did that go?
It was great. It was very similar to the Boston local music DigiFest, but
Yeah.
it was cool because we did it in two different cities. So we had city bands from Salt Lake and then bands from Boston play, and we went back and forth between them. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool like new kind of concept to be able to do that stuff. Not that the concept is new, I guess, but just that people are doing it more or turning to it more now because they can't be doing it in person. But your company has been so active and so proactive, like since the pandemic started, with bringing live music to people as best as we can, which is through streaming from some of our favorite venues like the Midway this entire time. And I think there's a lot of people that may not even there's still a lot of people that might not even be aware of just how much is going on with people still trying to play music and like bring music to people um as much as you've been doing. So I feel like you deserve a lot of props. Because there really hasn't been that many people that I know who have been working as hard as you have really recently.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, it's a weird time, but you can't stop everything, and I think whether it's a pandemic or not, music is something that really keeps people moving and going, and I don't know, you just have to adapt to the situation and keep doing what you're doing in any capacity. And I'm glad that Midway has given me a space to do that, and that bands still want to perform and get out there to any capacity.
And did you start up with the Midway live streams like right away? Like pretty much like when did you first get going with it?
So I started doing it actually like remotely from home with Dave Crespo. We were doing like little scene streams. Probably I think like April and May we were doing those. And then it was either late May or early June. We did the first one at Midway with I believe it was Lenny Lashley and Jesse Ahern.
Cool. So was this where were the performances coming from with the scene streams? Like were it just like different people in their own spaces, their own
Yeah.
houses?
Yeah, wherever like some people would do it from like their practice space, other people would do it in their living room, bedroom, it kind of depended on what each person had
Right.
available.
And that was kind of cool too because like Dave Crespo lives in Salt Lake City, like you mentioned earlier.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he's co-hosting it from halfway across the country,
Mhm.
um, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool to have that ability now. And I mean, I guess the ability was always there, but we're all using things like that way more than ever before. So,
Yeah, yeah. And you guys like were kind of already teamed up like from even before the pandemic.
yeah, absolutely. Um I mean, he's the whole reason I'm doing any of this. So, we definitely have a long relationship and a lot of similar connections with bands and other people in the scene. So it was an easy transition just to continue that from two different cities.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really rad. When did you get started with Tiny Oak Booking yourself?
So I think it was 2016 is technically when I like created the page and decided I was gonna have like my own separate booking thing. Because at the time I was doing booking and radio and stuff through WMF Radio. But for like a few of my friends' bands and stuff, they wanted to do tours, so I decided to do the Tiny Oak Booking as like separate from booking local shows to help them book tours, whether it was just like New England based or like cross country, whatever. Um, but I didn't really like dive into it until probably like 2018 is really when I just like went was only doing Tiny Oak. There wasn't WMF anymore, or Dave had moved, so it was just me. Um,
Right.
so it's probably when I really started going.
WEMF was sort of the like second incarnation that came out of what originally started as Unregular Radio, right? In a
Yeah.
way, kind of.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
sort of the next evolution. Because I remember working
Right.
a few shows with Unregular back in the day. That was pretty cool when they
Nice.
used to put on shows in the city and stuff. Um, What's like the furthest away that Tiny Oak has booked tour spots in, like tour dates in?
Um, you know, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but Blind Spot's done a couple of tours, like down south and west south. Um, but we haven't gone full coast to coast yet.
Cool.
Hopefully soon, as things get better, we could do that.
Yeah. I have to imagine that someone like yourself has had a really good perspective and kind of firsthand insight into really like deep down how this pandemic has been affecting all parts, like all players, from bands themselves, venue owners, bookers, promoters, and I think it's super easy. We've been talking about it on this podcast now for since I brought it back, and just about everybody that I've had on. We've mentioned the fact that this has been so crushing to the music industry, but it's easy to like see that from a surface level and be like, yeah, the music industry's hit hard, but to really like dig down and see firsthand on every level, like um each player in the game as far as what makes live music like a phenomenon. um and so I feel like somebody like you has probably been able to see that better than anybody else, really.
Yeah, it's been hard to see that, and because like obviously we're close with bands, we're close with like you said venues. Not just oh we know them, we book them. It's like we know the owners, we know these band members, like they're friends, or we know the event staff that works at these venues. And to just have everything come to a complete halt and everyone just like having to scramble and find ways to survive until things could happen again was it still is difficult. But I feel like most people maybe have found a way to just get through this time by doing
Yeah.
little things, and even like something like this is like
Yeah.
every little bit that um we can like give each other like matters so much.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, like I've said this now a couple times too, but like this has just become almost like therapy. Like it's just like a means to talk with people and like catch up. I was worried that, the last thing anybody would want to do is like another fucking Zoom call, that
Yeah.
everybody's like super burned out on it. But it's been rad. Everybody's like, still super stoked on the art that they're making and the way they're contributing to it. And like, um, Boston's been a city that's had like it's just so charitable. Everybody's just been totally stepping up to the plate to like work on compilations, work on the streams like that you're doing to benefit different places. And So that part of it's been like, really encouraging and kind of positive, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't able to do the live streams. They've definitely kept me going, like in every way possible. And it's also been really cool to see bands and artists, all kinds, release a bunch of new material this year. Like despite everything, like people are still out there creating, even if it's not like, even if you can't see it happen, it's still happening.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the effect it's had on everybody's art too. Like,
Yeah,
which, it's bittersweet. It's like art's been coming out of terrible things happening for years, like for decades, hundreds, centuries even, Um but but that's always like the bittersweet part of it is it's like something beautiful gets made out of something really shitty happening, and then, you know, you really like are in love with that thing like that somebody created. You're like, this is really amazing, even though it came out of something shitty. But it is a
yeah,
weird like philosophical thing to consider. But
it's true though. Like that's,
yeah,
I mean, I feel like that's been made, you know,
yeah.
is
So you've been doing live streams almost every night of the week, right? From the Midway, or how has it been working usually?
um it depends on the week. Some weeks we have bands scheduled like every day to do a live stream. Other weeks it's only like 3 days. It kind of just depends on like band availability. Um, but that's the only place that I'm really doing the live streams, except for we've been doing monthly live streaming series with Lenny, where we go to different locations and do that.
What locations have you gone to so far?
But so we've only done one, which was at Inclusion Records. I forget where that is, but it's a super cool spot. Definitely suggest checking it out. It's like a record store on the bottom
Okay.
floor, but then like a skate shop on the top floor, which is pretty cool.
Oh, interesting. In here in Massachusetts?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool. Because I
yeah,
was
it's
gonna say,
in
didn't
Southern Mass,
he?
Norwell maybe.
Okay, he did one. Wasn't he just? Did he do one from Jersey, or was it right after he got back from Jersey?
Yeah,
Because he was like
so
in. He was at Little Eden doing stuff with Pete. His new stuff that he's been working on, right?
yeah, so we did like it remotely, like I did with the scene streams, where he was doing it from his hotel room in Jersey.
Okay, that's where he was. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say I thought I saw something about. I gotta hit him up and see if he would be down to do an episode sometime soon.
Yeah, definitely.
One where he doesn't just make fun of me for not having ever seen Rocky or whatever it was. I think it was Rocky that he made fun of me last time we were on this on the stream together. I know that Jay like at the Midway really stepped up too to like help everybody out, and like even with doing the live streams, like he still installed plexiglass everywhere and like has been like really adamant to like keep hope hanging on as far as like Boston and the Boston music community, because I know that we've already lost, a couple of other venues, and it's been pretty big blow.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay's been awesome. I mean, as you know, he's a great guy, and he always like cares about the music scene, does what he can do to help them, and he certainly understands the importance of the Midway and what it means to so many people. And he was willing to do anything he could to keep it going and make sure it survived.
Yeah,
Because we can't lose any more venues
I know.
here anywhere
Yeah,
really, but
yeah, for real.
it's especially one that has like so much history. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. It's been so sad. Like, I mean, obviously, Great Scott being one of the biggest, that the future of which I suppose is still kind of in limbo. But it may be coming back in just in a different capacity somewhere else, which is better than it not coming back at all.
Definitely.
But for right now, we definitely are without it. We are without once in Somerville, which is closed. I know that the venue where I worked at, the Rockwell Theater, is kind of closed indefinitely right now because of everything that's been going on. So it's just been hopefully it's coming back, but uh it's just been super sad, and I think everybody kind of reached a tipping point right around the time when it everybody realized once was going to go down that um, we can't lose another one. We can't fucking afford it.
Right. No,
um,
not at all.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see a lot of people have rallied around saving music spaces, and they've done like benefit performances or made GoFundMe's or comp albums um, to help save what we have left. And that's made all the difference for sure. And it's
yeah.
brought the community together, like, if nothing else, which is important, something I think we need to do more often.
I have to wonder if like I've wondered myself too, like if coming out of the other side of this thing, like there is the potential to see new places pop up or new venues be created or come out of kind of come out of the ruins, so to speak. I suppose.
I'm
And
sure there'll be some.
yeah, I don't mean that in an irreverent way, right? Like it's not like, oh, we out with the old in with the new type of thing. It's still like breaks my heart that we've lost the places we have, but I wonder if people's willpower will kind of like, even if we couldn't save a specific space, we would all contribute to trying to make a new one, or if somebody was like, hey, we've got this plan to like make a new venue, that people would rally around that just as much.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would hope that we could come together and like make a community space or something like that. Um,
Yeah,
I
I do feel like I've often thought to myself, like Boston needs like a Seven Circle music collective, like what's out in Denver, like one of those type of co-op space.
right, yeah,
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 something
totally,
something like that would be really
um,
rad.
I'm surprised that there has been more of a movement to do that.
Yeah, I think I think um I think we run into problems in our part of the country a lot with regulations and
Yeah,
just the price, taxes and
yeah,
financing and
absolutely,
like um being on the road and seeing how other cities, how easy it is in some regards to like start up a music space, because it doesn't really cost a whole lot of money to like rent a space there commercially,
right,
whereas it's like here you can't even get a basement, like a you can't even get
yeah,
like a closet to live in, for a
right,
reasonable price, let alone a venue and a liquor license and all that kind of stuff. It starts to really muddy things up, which is
yeah. That's something that Dave has talked about a lot since moving to Salt Lake City. Just the price and like what you're able to do over there with the money
yeah,
versus like over here. Like it's a big difference. It's huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's always a bummer because like
Yeah.
when I think about the stuff that could be done, or like the spaces that we do have in certain parts of the city that would make such awesome, exactly like a co-op, kind of almost like a warehouse space type of thing that could have a stage and a really nice bar and stuff, and just the red tape in the way of trying to do it here is
It's tough.
yeah, it's super frustrating. It really is.
Yeah. It's sad that that's the way it is too.
You have a
Cuz
you have so many industrious people here too, like people who are super passionate about music and everything, that would totally crush like operating a space like that.
it sucks that that's the way it is because of like there's so many people here that could pull it off and make it amazing. But
Yeah.
we're just kind of like stuck in, I mean, even at, like you said, is like just as people living here, we're all just stuck in this weird, we can't afford anywhere, anything because everything is just overpriced.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really interesting to like talk to more people in different parts of the country, or to see, I guess, like after the pandemic starts to ease, how other cities are going to bounce back and like in what ways and stuff like that. Compared to here, I think.
Yeah. I
Where was Where was the first place that you ever booked a show at?
Um, I know the first show I worked was at Precinct.
Oh yeah.
I was doing door for Dave. Um, I don't think I ever actually did any of the booking for those shows though. So I think it might have been McGann's was the first one. Um, like me and Dave co-booked for years before I started like just
Right, right.
doing it on my own. Um,
Yeah.
so it's hard to pinpoint exactly which was mine and which was his type of thing. But
Yeah, for sure. Well, what was the first like official Tiny Oak show?
oh boy, yeah, that's a great question. I'm not even sure. Like at this point, I've just booked so many shows or like streaming things that I don't know.
There's a new podcast out called Talking Touring that I've listened to a few episodes of that is really cool, and it's these two dudes from Britain that are tour managers, and they have been talking to other tour managers and other like musicians, crew members, and people that they've toured with and stuff like that. Um, and so I think it's super important that
Yeah,
the story of and the perspective from people like yourself is kind of is told because it's we couldn't nobody could do any of it without you. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I've it's definitely a common thing where like the crew gets forgotten, but nothing could happen without them, which is kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the pandemic is like the music industry like came to a halt, and like I feel like even like oh yeah, all the people, all the jobs, like they still didn't really think about the crews at first, or like the behind the scene like people.
Right.
And it's just I mean, we don't do what we do to be recognized or like to be in the spotlight. Obviously, we do what we do because we love it. But it's always nice to get recognized or to talk to other people who are
Yeah.
in the same position.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's been a few like organizations around that have been working to try to like the Save Our Stages
Right.
organization and the Mass Events Coalition or whatever Live Events Coalition like, but I still feel like people don't think about us even with looking for new jobs. You know, over this past year, it's amazing how much you I think get tossed aside as like not being qualified for another job or not or being overqualified even sometimes for another job
Right.
that like people won't hire you for that I think people don't realize that event industry workers are perfect for like
Yeah.
because uh you're not going to find people that like work harder or are used to like such a ridiculous fast-paced demanding like environment.
Right. I think like they don't realize obviously that those types of people would be perfect for certain situations because they don't really understand what they do at all. Like they don't get it because it's not talked about or it's not something that they've ever thought about.
Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely interesting, like you're saying, to to see that and fresh because I mean, there's so many talented people that are being pushed aside, even though, like you said, they'd be perfect for it. And
I mean,
yeah,
even like with like the live streaming, I'm thinking about how, you have to mix a stream, you have to run in and out of the venue to
yeah,
kind of isolate, hear the stream in your headphones.
yeah.
Like,
It's a ridiculous process in reality, but hey, it works and it lets us have live music. So
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, what's the turnout been like? I mean, how do you feel like the response has been to it since you've been doing it over there?
um the bands love it. Everyone is always like it's so weird playing to no one or like not getting like the crowd feedback you normally would get. Um, but bands have loved being able to like just perform again and like perform on an actual stage or like a venue that they used to frequent.
Mm.
Um, and the audience, the virtual audience, has been really receptive to it and thankful that it's happening. Um, I think that there's been some fluctuation in people like attending online because we all got burnt out at one point or another with like virtual events, whether it be zooming with friends or watching 800 people go live on Facebook or whatnot. But I mean, overall, it's been a really positive experience for myself and Midway and the bands, I think. So,
Yeah, getting burned out on the live streaming thing is a bummer because I feel like just a few months in that definitely happened, you know. Um cuz like everybody was doing it. Everybody was just like sitting in their own house playing guitar on their phone camera or whatever, you know.
yeah.
Um so I imagine that would be a challenge to kind of entice people back into um to wanting to see, you know, more live music in that way. But you've done a really amazing job, like, and maybe you can talk a little bit about like some of the things you've implemented over at the Midway because you're doing a multi-tracked mix and a multi-track mix and multiple camera angles now too that you're switching between.
Yeah, or when we did the first one, I was just using like a little webcam and like my interface and just kind of like going into that. Um, but there's been multiple like upgrades in between then and now. But at this point, I'm using like the board feed and then have a new like camera switcher where you can do the three cameras all in that, and that brings everything together and sends it out to the world.
I mean, it ups the production value though too. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're giving
Oh
somebody
yeah.
just like,
It's made all the difference. Like I once in a while I'll go back and look at like the first streams I did compared to like the latest stream I did, and it's just night and day. And you don't always notice it as you do it because I don't know. And like anytime I make an upgrade, I'm like, oh, but it could be better, you know. So like I don't even like necessarily give it a chance to be what it is.
yeah, for sure. It's kind of always that
Yeah,
like
it's been
gear is addictive because you're always like, oh, I got
right.
this thing, but now like I see I
Absolutely,
the
100%.
the internet shows you a link to something else, and you're just like, oh, but I could get that thing. That would be
Right.
better.
That's what I
um,
need.
but I think your streams are a great example of like if you put just a little bit of energy into it, like a little bit of effort, you know, into into like just something more than a phone camera, you know. I
Right.
bet people watching it don't even think it's more. It's almost like subconscious, like, but they'll be watching it and enjoy watching it more because it's more dynamic and more interesting to watch, and they might not even know why. And it's like you were
Right.
watching it between three different cameras, and you know that the sound quality's better.
Yeah. Yeah, it, it's funny like the bands that have live streams but then come in for the live stream. They're just like, "Oh, this is what's going on." You know what I mean? Like they don't even necessarily understand what the setup is, and they're always surprised about like all the different things that go into it.
I'm I'm almost praying a little bit that coming out on the other side of this, people will be more kind to technical people like myself because
I hope so.
I think it's opened well I think it's opened people's eyes to like how much work things are, like how much things require, like you want to do a live stream, sure, like how are you gonna light it? How like where are you gonna put the
Yeah.
camera? How long? Like you need cables that are a certain lengths. You need like space to put things. You need like nobody thinks it's gonna be that much work, and it's
No.
always amazing like how people will like want to hire a sound company, for example, to like come and do sound for an event, and like they literally think it's gonna cost them like a few $100s, and like that like one person's going to be able to come and do it, and they're going to have
Right.
to pay somebody for like 3 hours of work, and it's like what you want to do requires an entire day of work, like, and
Yeah.
people have
And
no
a
clue.
team of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Like people have no clue, like none. And I think I don't know, maybe even bands, even musicians, maybe seeing the behind the scenes side of it, like how much it takes just to get to make a quality live stream for the air that is, you know,
Yeah.
just decently watchable, and not on a camera, like on a phone, is maybe people will kind of at least be a little more sympathetic to it now.
Yeah, I hope so. I also hope that more people will come out to shows. I haven't been able to. Like, I hope that also goes up with this whole situation. Because,
Yeah,
I mean, we already know that people take the crew um, for granted, but they also definitely took live shows and music and bands and stuff for granted. So,
I know. I know it's so easy to think, well, there'll be another like, I'm tired
right.
tonight, there'll be another show.
Yeah, I'll go to the next one.
Yeah, I know. I feel like this like what it's made me think even more about is like we need not even just like for people to come out and support shows when they can again, but like we need some kind of safety net in place so this doesn't happen again. Like we need
Right.
some kind of safety net that protects like the live music industry. That's what it's made me think about a lot.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like some kind of like like insurance maybe, or something, like some way to financially protect like anyone who works in that industry.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what the answer to that would be necessarily, but as we've seen, we definitely need something. Um, it's hard to even fathom that it happened now and that we've made it this far. Um, I can't even imagine if it happened again, what would happen without a plan or something, or like having to go find a new career. Would like if I didn't have, I don't know like what I would be doing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. 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 You're in I I won't say unique position, but like you're in a position where you are really somebody that's kind of made this your life, and like made music and like booking shows and like working at shows like your whole life. Um and I think a lot of people forget how fragile that is to begin with.
Yeah, it's the work is consistent, but the benefits necessarily aren't. So it's like that's a tricky thing sometimes.
Yeah. Like I never saw something like this coming. I never was it was not even on my radar screen as like
Yeah.
a pandemic like coming and shutting everything down, just obliterating it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like we've seen the music industry, specifically the local scene, like take hits year after year, and like there's been obviously a decline in attendance and stuff like that with Netflix or whatever else. Um so like to have have this happen was really just too much. But I do think that it will cause people to have a different perspective on it and value it much more in the future.
Yeah.
So there's at least uh, somewhat of a positive spin, I guess.
There's like there's like the crazy kind of idea that it could almost be that almost be like a silver lining, I guess, going forward.
Right.
That it kind of it could have almost been the antidote to the fact that Netflix and everything else like was whatever form of more like introverted like home entertainment was preventing people from going out to see live music as much, which is crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
Like
I
the pandemic actually in some dark way like having a positive impact on that, the future of it.
right. Yeah, it's weird. I'm thankful for that tiny sliver of hope, but I mean, we didn't have to have a pandemic to realize this is.
We shouldn't have.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
right,
definitely
right.
shouldn't have. No, definitely not. Definitely not. In the fall of 2019, you and Dave had worked together on creating and starting the Boston Local Music Festival,
Mhm.
which um, was 2 days. It was in City Hall Plaza. It was 3 stages, um, and it was pretty good turnout. It was like for an inaugural year. And I know when I first saw that you guys were doing it, I was so excited because I feel like there's so much talent here. There are so many amazing bands and songwriters and singers, comedians, everyone. Um, and you guys really recognized a lot of local talent, a lot of like really homegrown talent that I feel like not a lot of people get to see or like gets showcased a lot. Um, So obviously going into this past year when it had to switch virtual was kind of a blow to that because I feel like you guys had kind of just gotten started with it. But I don't know if you'd want to talk a little bit about how that kind of got started and maybe what the future plans might be for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard having to transition from our first year to this and not knowing like are we is it even possible to do digitally? Um, but Dave had been talking with Jen Matson. She runs the Boston Arts Festival, and they then contacted me and was asked me to like be a part of it and help with booking bands and running production. So that's how I got involved. Um, for the future, I mean, something's gonna happen. Can't say whether it's gonna be in person or not. Unfortunately, I would love to have another big outdoor thing with multiple stages and the beer garden and everything. Um, that will definitely be a goal for the future.
Yeah.
Don't know how many other festivals will need to happen before that, but it will definitely come back.
How did you guys kind of
Something
get
will
it
happen.
how did you guys kind of get it going? Like I know you got like some sponsors, like Winter Hill sponsored it, and I'm I'm uh, I'm just curious to know like kind of what the process was like with that. Because I was super impressed by it. I thought you guys really did an amazing job.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is just like trial and error and like reaching out to businesses that either you think would be a great fit for the festival or that um like care a lot about the music community. We definitely wanted it to be something local, to keep like all the musicians are local. Um, we wanted all local sponsors. Um, it's kind of hard to lay it out step by step because there was all of us working on it and like working on different parts at different times and just keep punching my microphone. Um, but it's a lot of just like reaching out to people and being like, hey, do you want to be involved in this? Can you assist in any way? Here's what we're trying to do. We think it's important. This is why. Um, that's basically the basis of it all.
How long did the process behind that take?
So Dave and Jen were talking for at least a few months before they even brought me into the picture, and then from then it was like we started. I want to say talking about it in like January maybe, and the festival's in September, so uh, a good chunk of time. Um, and like in reality, we would
Yeah,
have
yeah,
wanted a little
8 9 months.
bit longer to like work out some of the details. Yeah, but yeah, it's a long process, but it's fun and it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, how many people wound up like working on that all together, like between besides yourself and Dave and Jen? Um,
So there was like four of us that did like the main portion of it. It was me, Dave, Pete, and Jen. But then we had other people help out with like production, like Herb helped out with one of the stages. Mikey Shake hosted. Um, Jen had a few people from her arts festival that help manage and run events, like do like the security and that type of stuff. So there were a few of us, but not like a huge team either.
yeah. It was pretty cool what you guys were able to do, like even with a crew that small. Like it's pretty awesome. It was 3 different stages. It was there was an entire beer garden. There was security in and out of City Hall Plaza, which is a huge space. Um, and yeah, it was really cool. And then so this year you guys morphed into the virtual realm with it, and it was how many bands did you have on it this year?
Um, I feel like it was like 20, maybe around there. 20,
Yeah,
25, maybe. I don't know, because we each did like four at each location or something like that.
per day at least.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and it was all day. It was all day Saturday, all day Sunday, um,
right.
with like four different venues participating at least. It was 2 different recording studio spaces,
Mhm.
the Jungle, the Midway, and then a third, right? Or I mean
Yeah.
a fifth rather, right?
Yeah. Audio Chemist is like the other one.
Right, right.
And then like the mixing has Terry Hanley Audio Systems, and then the two venues were the Jungle and Midway.
Yeah. Was it easy to get people on board for that? Like were the spaces that participated like stoked on participating?
Yeah. At first it was hard to find like what spaces would be good for it because we weren't totally sure like what we needed or like what bands were 100% going to be interested, what space they would equipment. But once we like reached out to places, everyone like hopped on board almost immediately, which was cool.
Yeah. I feel like the learning process through all of this has has to be in another way kind of one of those like dark hidden positives, like
Yeah.
I not just for like people learning how to work from home and use video calls and like do that kind of stuff at the most basic level, but even for people like us that like people like me that like I can mix a show, but there's just a whole new element to it now, like with how to how to incorporate a video stream into it, how to mix the best for a stream. Like it's it's been a huge learning curve for everybody, but I feel like maybe will leave us in a better spot to be able to like use a lot of those elements in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it was a very tedious process for me personally, just trying to figure out all like the little ins and outs of everything. And then technology, has a mind of its own, so it might work one day and not the next. But
Yeah.
at the very least, it gave us all the ability, or pushed us towards learning how to adapt to any situation and use what we have or find out what we need to make something new work and happen. And I know just the being able to adapt, I found, is extremely important.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of tools that are available to you for free too. You know, there's all sorts of resources like Open Broadcaster and other
Right.
things out there that like really have come to the forefront as far as like being pretty accessible to people and
Yeah,
useful.
absolutely. Like there's like a lot of the equipment is expensive, and like knowing how to use it and stuff takes some time to get it to work right. But then there's also a lot of free things that work just as well, or that you need, that could make the process easier. Like everything doesn't have to be expensive,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that the value of it all is any less either.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially like on the flip side of it, like what like for the audience, like the smallest things I feel like will improve someone's perception of a stream or of a show or whatever, you know. Like just even having it be like lit well.
Right. Yeah.
um is like the little things that like a lot of us I don't think we're even thinking about so much before. Um until we all kind of like just had to do it.
Yeah.
So no, it's cool. I mean, it was a really cool thing to be a part of, and I think like again, there's so much talent in the city um, that a lot of people don't get to see, and a lot of talent that doesn't get showcased or like the exposure they deserve. You know,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
and so the festival was really awesome at bringing some of that to the forefront.
Yeah, I definitely feel like we tried to pick some acts that didn't typically get like in spotlight enough, but that we thought definitely should be. There's a million, of course, but like you were saying before, like other avenues may not have ever exposed anyone to these bands before. So
Yeah,
like I feel like me and Dave have focused on like those types of bands a lot throughout most of our booking. Um, so it was like easy to just also have that mindset for the festival.
a pretty good wealth of like of different genres too, like hip hop, rock and roll, singer songwriters. Um,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
I've
I mean, we'd love to do even more variety in the future. There's some uh like back end things that sometimes prevent that from happening, but we're always open to all different types of music. Like I'll pretty much book anything if someone's interested. Like why not? I think everyone deserves a shot. So
yeah, one of the
yeah, it's
places
important.
that you were super involved with, I know before the pandemic was Tavern at the End of the World, which uh, I I feel the same about in terms of their reception to having shows there, and having all kinds of different artists play there. I mean, mostly because of the size of the space, it tended to be like acoustic singer songwriter acts and stuff like that. But they were like pretty open minded over there as well. Do you know anything about how they've been faring throughout this, or if they're going to come back?
Um, well, they've been open, not doing music,
Right.
but because I mean it's hard. Like think about how small it is. It's hard to already like social distance in there. So, but they, I don't know if you've been over there at all or like driven past it, but they built like a whole back like patio,
Nice. Nice.
and added that on, which is great. It looks awesome. Um, so I mean, as far as I know, they look like they're doing well. I popped in real quick one day just to like say hi and check out the patio and stuff, and it was like as limited tables and stuff, but all the tables were full, so
Yeah.
people were stoked that they opened back up. And I mean, they've always had like they put like the rugby matches on and soccer, and they have great food, which I think like people always would go there for brunch and stuff. So I think
Yeah,
that will definitely carry them
their food
through.
was fantastic.
Yeah.
They had that space too, which is really good to know that they were able to utilize that back like parking lot space because
Yeah.
um, I feel bad for all the spaces that don't have physically the patio space. Like they certainly would totally do outdoor
Right.
dining and stuff like that, but they just don't physically have it.
Yeah.
Um,
Midway wanted to do that, but there just isn't a good. It's not a good spot right for us to just set up tables outside. You
right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super tough. Um, but yeah, I think it's really cool that there are places like Tavern where like you don't have to be anybody specific, right? Like you
Right.
can just play a show. Um, and again, I think we're I think we're kind of in danger of rapidly losing a lot of those places that are uh have their doors open that way, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We did some weird um mixes of genres on Tuesday nights there. But Tavern was always like, yeah, bring in who you want, and let's see what happens. So it's always cool to have that. Tavern Tuesdays are one of my favorite weekly things for sure.
What was like the weirdest band you ever had there? Or the weirdest genre, I guess.
Um, that's tough. I feel like we've had some hip hop, we've had someone who did like solo reggae stuff, but they had like a bass pedal thing but they play guitar, but they also play drums with their feet. So we had stuff like that. Someone played theremin. What was also cool is like people would just show up there, like random musicians, and sometimes like they'd be like, "Hey, can I like hop on a song with you?" and like get up on stage and like play with whoever was booked that night. And like stuff like that would happen, which is really cool.
Yeah. The family there was like the community there was always like pretty cool.
Right.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
regulars, a lot of like
Absolutely.
local hangout people that hang out there. Um, yeah, no, I was just interested because like I think one of the weirdest genres that was ever. I didn't mix the show, but there was a Mongolian throat singing band that played it at one of the venues where I
Whoa.
worked. Yeah, I want to say like that was like one of the most interesting uh s- shows that we had booked there. For,
Yeah, I don't think we've had anything like that.
like exotic, super exotic.
Unfortunately, like that'd be an interesting thing to witness. I think,
Yeah, for sure, it was wild.
especially at tavern, like you just walk in, that's happening.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, I feel like yeah, people go to tavern maybe expecting a certain thing, like like to be within the confines of like generally like knowing what to expect, um
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, no, I just think it's cool that like you are always willing to book people like pretty much no matter what. Um, do people usually find you and contact you to book shows like or is it pretty much like half and half or like
Um, it's pretty much people find me from other bands at this point. Or like if a venue doesn't have the date they want, they'll just send them like my way and see like what I can do for them. At probably like when WMF stopped and I went um just with doing TinyOak stuff, like there was a little bit of a time where like I had to reach out more and find bands and like kind of create new relationships. But then there was also a lot of overlap from bands I worked with at WMF that just stayed in contact with me that way. Um,
yeah.
but I don't like I enough bands like reach out to me, bands that I frequently talk to that reach out to me that I don't have to necessarily reach out to bands. I will. If I come across a band that I haven't worked with and I really like them, like I'll reach out to them and see what they're up to, see if they want to like hop on a show or a live stream or whatever happens to be going on at the time. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that the nature of things with like networking and like the word of mouth um is just like kind of the way it goes. But I'm just curious because I feel like a lot of people don't know. They don't know like they don't know the ins and outs of like being a promoter and like booking a
Yeah.
show, booking shows, and like how that world works. You know,
Right.
um, what do you like? What would you say is like the most challenging thing about it? I mean, pre you
Um.
can take it in the context of like pre-pandemic times, you know,
Yeah.
because obviously this has been one of the most challenging things of everybody like that works in the industry,
Right.
without saying. But I
Yeah.
mean, just in
It's
general.
crazy. Um. It's kind of hard to say because I feel like it like you could ask me one week and this would be the hardest thing this week, and then the next week it would be something different. Um. But sometimes it's just it's finding the right fit and organizing all the details and getting bands to read those details and um I don't like sometimes you're gonna have like unbalanced shows where maybe the genres don't line up or things like that, and like some people think that's great and other people are like, well, why would you put us on this show if they're rock and we're reggae or something? It's like because that's just sometimes it's just how things work out. Like there's a lot of little details that determine like the end result that I think people don't really
Yeah.
realize or take into account.
Sometimes it comes down to like, do you want to play a show or do you not want to play? Like, do you
Right.
want to play a show or not?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like this date is the date you wanted and it's open, and you happen to be on a mixed bill. That's kind of a little bit weird, but
But like that also makes it fun because
yeah,
like you're gonna be interacting with different types of people. You're gonna be playing with a band that's totally different from you. That it could be a great experience.
yeah. And if you put people in like the right order, sometimes too, like
Yeah.
it it kind of flows, you know, even if like the genres are different. I feel like I don't know. I've been to a million shows where the genres have been all kinds of stuff, you know. Um,
Yeah. Like
and
I
like yeah,
typically
some
kind of like those. You
I
know.
mean sometimes if it's certain bands you like know right away, right? Like you're like this is the perfect bill for this. Like I got these four
Right.
bands or
Yeah.
something like that all want to play around the same time. Like that would be a great bill. But other times it's just kind of like people want to play.
Right. It's like sometimes a band can't play it this time or like they can't play that other date, so they're doing this date, or like it's their birthday so they have to do this date and stuff like that. So it's like little things like that factor into it all too.
Yeah. Um, I feel like it could be challenging sometimes as a sound guy working some of those shows that are like, uh, in terms of what you have to mix or what you have to gear. Like if you're working on an analog board and you have one band that is like tracks and a vocalist, and then you have another band that's like, you know, four stacks,
Yeah.
like three guitar stacks or something. Like it can be, you know, like switching from one type of band like that, so super that's like super drastically different can be crazy. But
Right.
but it's definitely been fun to like work some shows where I've heard bands that I never heard before, or like a certain type of sound that is like really funky that, you know, I wouldn't have expected to play on the same bill as like kind of a pop punk band or something, you know, but
Yeah. Um I feel like even from like a sound standpoint, like that really kind of opens up like I don't know your skill set because you have to like switch between these two drastically different bands and like know how to um make them both sound good and make them happy and
for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. It forces you to like be on the ball and
right, right,
kind of hone your skills as far as like redoing things fast, like just being fast, you know, like just like, all right,
right, yeah, yeah,
gotta
because
completely mix this entirely different, like for this
local
next band.
shows move very differently than like those big shows. You know, we don't don't typically get to have a nice, pristine sound check before. Like maybe the band's not even here and their set starts in 10 minutes, like.
The bane of every promoter's existence, the bane of every sound guy's existence is definitely
Right.
definitely the late bands. Um, yeah, for sure. So you've been doing like the weekly live streams from the Midway, but then you've also kind of been doing like the specific scene stream type stuff. Like you mentioned earlier, you started doing it with Dave, and then like you did the DigiFest the other day,
Mm-hmm.
just this past weekend, and um, so and you have a few more of them coming up, right? Like there's gonna be one for the jungle.
Right, yeah. So we're doing a couple of remote benefits for the jungle because they're not open right now, so we can't like stream from there. So it's gonna be like kind of what we did at the beginning of quarantine, where we would have people like stream from their own locations, whether it's their bedroom, their practice space, wherever they have. And yeah, we'll be doing a couple of those. March 22nd yeah, is the first one for the jungle.
And it's gonna be open. People can watch on Facebook Live or on YouTube, right?
Yeah, yep. It will be on both TinyOak Facebook and YouTube pages.
And people can just donate directly to the jungle.
Yeah, they don't. The jungle actually doesn't have like a donation link for them, so I'll probably have to get them and then either buy gift cards that way and buy like merch or something to just get them the money and such. But
Got it. Okay.
yeah.
But like normal people can donate watching the
Right.
stream.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
they'll have a
the
link to donate.
same format as usual.
Cool. Um, are there any other big like DigiFest things coming up? Like, are you guys gonna do what you did this weekend again? You think?
We don't have any solid plan right now of another one, but I don't doubt that we will continue to do those. Um, they were a lot of fun, and I feel like they went well and were perceived well. So I
Yeah.
want to do another one at least. I'm
Yeah.
sure Dave does too. So if any bands want to hit us up.
Yeah. Hit up TinyOak Booking. And definitely check out the weekly streams from the Midway. They change every week, but you can pretty much at least 2 or 3 or 4 days out of the week find live music streaming from the stage at the Midway Cafe, where we all wish that we could hang out and
Hopefully
wish that
soon.
we could be in person, but hopefully soon. And check out TinyOak Booking on Facebook and on Instagram. There's always something going on. Check out the scene streams and keep an eye out for what's coming next down the pipe. Is there anything else that you want people to know about TinyOak or uh, the Midway Cafe streams, or anything that anybody should be aware of?
Um, I mean, just tune
Anything
in.
else you want? Anything else you want to plug or?
Support your community, your local venues, local promoters, local crew, local musicians. Tune in, share the live feed, share other bands' music. Be kind.
um hit up if you're lost for links too, hit up Doug McCormick, because he'll always just share and post every
absolutely. Doug is awesome.
every link to every live show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and for chatting about TinyOak, and we will hope to have you back on the show soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And have a good one.